Hey guys, we're going to do a temperature probe replacement here on this Primo bottom loading water cooler. It does look like I'm a little out of sequence with the steps here. That's okay. It'll all make sense as we keep moving. But very first thing, of course, is unplug your unit for sure. The second thing is you do want to drain all your water. So take a Phillips head screwdriver. And there is a plastic piece. I'm just going to put it on here. I've already removed it. But if you take a Phillips head screwdriver and remove the screw, you'll get access to this drain plug. And just put a pan underneath your unit. And let's relieve the water. All right, so I've moved the unit out to the garage. It'll make it a whole lot easier to work on. Again, I'm a little ahead of the ball game. I've already taken the shroud off, removed the screws on the control unit, and moved it out of the way as such. And you can also see that to get to the temperature probe, it was a little bit of a trick. As you can tell, there is a styrofoam two-piece section that encapsulates the cold reservoir, and you have to remove a piece of tape that goes around the entire unit. Once you remove the tape, I thought it was going to be a piece of cake to basically remove this shroud, and one side came off really easy, but the other side, of course, it had some adhesive on it, and I managed to break it. In hindsight, I think I would have done this a little bit differently, but that's okay. I mean, it's going to be easy to fix. And the idea was to get to the actual temperature probe itself. These are relatively simple fix here, and they're easy to get a hold of through Amazon. I will provide a link at the end of this video. It's going to be kind of hard to see, but as you can tell, I'm going to get my camera down in there. There is a hole on the side of the chamber that essentially the probe went into. It is not a sealed unit, so when you remove the probe, there won't be any water leakage, so you don't have to worry about that. It's in a small chamber, and it's basically held into position with some what they call thermal lithium grease. It's conductive for thermal. It aids in allowing the temperature of the water to successfully contact the probe to give accurate temperature results. So exactly what is this probe? Okay, well, next section I'm going to explain that a little deeper. Okay guys, so what exactly is the temperature probe? So basically what it is it's a device that senses the temperature of an object, and it changes its characteristics based on that temperature. It'll feed that information, typically a resistance, to the control board inside your unit. With the varying and changing resistance, your controller board responds accordingly. So when this little guy malfunctions, it can send erroneous information to your controller, and thus create the problems that I think we're having here today. So what I did is I went ahead and cut off the ends of the temperature probe. I had 5 of these guys, so I sacrificed one. I stripped off the wires, wrapped them around my probes that go to my digital voltmeter. So you can see an ambient temperature in my garage. It is a little warm out here. It's probably in the 80s. It sits at about 9.14 K. So you watch here. I'm going to pick this up. I don't put it in my hand, my body temperature, and whoa, look at that. So as the probe gets warmer, you can see that the resistance is dropping pretty dramatically. And if I continue to hold on to this, it'll just continue to drop till it reaches its maximum threshold. So we'll go ahead and let that go. And then we're going to do something a little different. This is an ice block cooler gel pack I got from the freezer. I'm going to put the temperature probe on this and cool her down. You're going to watch here as the resistance just takes off and goes higher. So in this particular case, the resistance changes as it gets cooler, resistance gets higher. Okay, so you can see on this particular unit, here is the temperature probe cable. Cable goes to a small loop here, which is tied off by a wire tie. And as you can see with that blue connector right there, that's where the temperature probe meets to the control board. Now that's the display board for the front. This in the back here is the actual control board, which does a lot of the heavy lifting. So the very first step, and I mean be very careful, is take some cutters and remove the wire tie that's holding the bundle. And very carefully remove this. You do not want to cut your other cables there. So once you have that free, then it's going to be a little easier to navigate this cord. And as you can see, my finger here, it goes right to the cable, right to the controller board. Okay, so you can see the circuit board there for the display, and where my finger's pointing there, the blue connector, that is for the temperature probe. So what I'm going to do is to facilitate a little better access, I'm just going to remove these screws on the board very carefully. I've already loosened this one here for the sake of time. Okay, so I've loosened the screws on the display board, and as you can see, you pull the display board off. This is the temperature probe connector. Is a latching connector. Very carefully unplug it, pushing on the little tab that raises the locking mechanism, and so you can remove the connector. And there we go. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to compare that with the new one. Now this is the new temperature probe, and it looks like we've got a little bit of a problem there. Now these things look fairly identical from one standpoint, but you can see that the locking mechanisms are completely different on this. So we're kind of faced with a conundrum here. We do want this connector to lock really well into the board, but this is not going to happen with this type of setup right here. So we're faced with two situations. We can either scrape down this locking mechanism to get it the same width. It'll basically slide in, but it's not going to lock very well. It's either that, or we're going to go ahead and have to splice. We're going to have to cut this cable off, splice in the new temperature probe cable to this connector right here to ensure that we've got a good fit. This is completely up to you which way you want to go. It could be that the temperature probes that you order might have a similar connector. You might want to do a little research on that. I kind of quickly ordered these for the sake of getting this thing fixed, but you know, every time you fix something, there's always going to be something that gets in the way. So I'm going to think about this for a second. I will get back and make my decision on what I'm going to do. Okay, so when I hook up the one that I pulled from the unit, and I'm performing the same tests, cut the cable off, wrapped it around the voltmeter, and now I have it against the ice pack. It started to rise like it was going to be okay, and it kind of flattened out right around 9.7K. It's been jumping up and down, but it's not having the same resistance reaction that the new one did. So we may have a bad unit here, so we may be on to something. Let's go ahead and put the other one back on and see what happens. So yeah, just to confirm, I put the newer unit back on. You can see the resistance jumping a lot faster and a lot higher. So it's possible we do have a bad temperature probe. Of course, really the only way you're going to know for sure is to put it in and test it and hope everything's just fine. But I think we're on to something here. So let's proceed to the next step. I'm kind of doing a side-by-side on these temperature probes, and you know, although they look the same dimensionally and stuff, you notice that the old one does have a little heat shrink on the end to help protect the wires a little more. And I think that's what I'm going to do, is I'm just going to grab a small piece of heat shrink and I'm going to go ahead and add it to my new temperature probe. Okay, so I got into my heat shrink and I cut myself off a very small section here. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to apply it to the new temperature probe in and about the same area that the other one was, roughly. Take my heat gun. Be very careful, don't get the heat gun too close. You don't want to ruin the temperature probe. And there we go. We've pretty much kind of duplicated the old one for the most part. Okay guys, so now I'm going to wire the temperature probe to the old connector. As you can see, I've already stripped back the wires and held them. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to insert some heat shrink over this because I want a really clean look, and put some smaller pieces on for the smaller connections. Okay, oopsie. All right, so we're just going to do a end-to-end wrap here. Now polarity is not important on the temperature probes. Doesn't matter which way the wires go. Wrap it around nice and tight. Don't have any sticking ends out. Keep it nice and flat. Okay. Then again, like I said, I highly advise using a soldering iron. Just fortify your joint. Not a whole lot, just enough to seal the joint. Make a nice, good, strong connection. Then we're going to roll over our heat shrink on top of this connection. On top of this connection here. Using the heat gun. Get it good on all angles. Okay. And then we're just going to take our other one here. Just going to kind of join the whole thing together. Heat gun. Again, thoroughly around all edges. Don't cook it. Just enough to shrink it and make it tight. Okay, you're good to go. So now let's get this thing reinstalled. Okay, so we're going to do the reinstall. So I'm going to grab my control board here. Reinsert the connector. Make sure it's fully seated and locked into place. Again, be careful. Handle the board by the edges. Okay. Going to insert the screw. Hand tighten for now. Second screw. Do a little hand tightening. And we're going to come back with our ratcheting screwdriver. Oops. We'll go ahead and tighten it down. Don't over tighten it. you run the risk of cracking the printed circuit board. So just be very gentle. When you feel it snugged up, just a little bit more and that's it. Let's get this one tightened up. Now again, your model might be different. It may be not as easy to get to this board on your particular model, but again, the operation is very similar. There is a display controller board in your unit. Your temperature probe may also come off your actual controller board as well. Whatever your model, you have to make the decision on what is best. Again, if you don't want to go to this kind of trouble, like I did, removing the board and the connector, you can cut these wires and just go ahead and do a splice on your cable to make it easier. I kind of like a little cleaner look, so I went to a little more trouble. So I'm going to move the camera, and then we're going to get ready to start closing this thing up, or at least tying the cables back. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and fix our wiring wire tie back up here. Put all our wires back together in the bundle as they were. Take a wire tie. And make sure my bundle is as neat as I can get it. There we go. Got our wire bundle back tied together. Clip off the excess. And that leaves us with the probe. Okay, so before you put your temperature probe in, it's very, very important that the unit be applied with new thermal grease, thermal compound. What I chose is the Arctic MXX. There is a little bit of some instructions back here to make sure it's not a fake product. I did get this from Amazon. It did have very, very good reviews. I did exactly what it said to do, and it did check out. I'm curious. I hope it does good, but it looks like a good thermal compound, and it's very important that you apply it generously to your temperature probe before you put it in. That way it gives it the maximum amount of thermal conductivity when it's inside the chamber, and gives accurate readings that way. All right, so I'm going to take the plunger here, and I'm going to apply a good amount to this to make sure it's thoroughly covered. Apply generously, coat thoroughly. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and insert the probe. As soon as I can find the hole. There it is. Get the probe very deep inside the hole until it makes thorough contact. Okay. Then we're going to prepare it for some taping to ensure that it stays in place. Okay, so what I've done is I've used a small piece of Gorilla duct tape. Good stuff. And I've sealed the probe wire sufficiently into place. Definitely don't want it to move. We don't want it to come out. Okay, so we're going to start putting this thing back together. Yeah, unfortunately, I cracked that. I really wish I hadn't, but it did have some adhesive that had stuck to the chamber. Didn't have much of a choice. I had to break it. It's not going to be that big of a deal, really, in the grand scheme of things. I mean, if you want to, you can try to find a way to glue the styrofoam back on. I don't think I'm going to go that direction. I think I'm just going to put the layers back on. And we're going to start by just applying a little bit of good pressure sensitive tape. Just to start our sealing process. Just to start the ball rolling here. Get it back into place. Gonna grab another piece of tape. And I'm gonna work from the other side. When I originally took this apart, there was one circular piece that went just around the whole thing. I think I'm gonna try to do that. But just to start out, I want to make sure it's covered. And we're off in the right direction. Okay, I'm going to kind of move this cable out of the way. Try to get a good, as best as I can, shot around the whole device. Get myself another piece of tape. And come from the back side of it. Snug it up. However you want to seal this is up to you. To put it back together, I'm liking the way that looks. I think I may actually go with the little duct tape for the final wraparound. Go ahead and slice me off a piece of that. You know, duct tape's always a pleasure to work with, right? Okay. So we will start on one end. And very carefully, we'll just go around it. Doing the best we can to keep it sticking to each other. Alright. And come out the other side here. And boom. I think we have successfully rewrapped our styrofoam. I did break a little piece down on the bottom here where the wire is at. I'm going to probably go ahead and test it to make sure everything's good. But probably afterwards, I may take a little bit of the spray foam sealer, just a little bit, just enough maybe to patch up this small tiny hole right there. But I think I'd like to verify that its operation first before I do that. So I'm pretty comfortable with the way this looks. It's sealed up pretty good. So the next step is we're going to go ahead and put the controller back. Give me 1 second. I'm going to grab the screws, be right back. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and put the controller back. Be very careful not to damage or pinch any of the wires. Very carefully put it back behind the support. And then we'll reinstall the screws. Again, check very carefully. Make sure you're not pinching any wires. Pinching wires in here can cause problems. Be very careful. Take it slow. Make sure the ribbon cable hasn't been pinched in any way coming off the controller, and start your screws by hand or however you feel most comfortable. And go ahead and tighten. Don't over tighten your screws, just snug them up. Okay, very good. So again, let's double check wires. Very important that they don't get pinched during reassembly. You may want to take some small strips of pressure sealing tape, because when you took it apart, you probably noticed that your wires might have been taped to the side here, and it's good practice to go ahead and resecure your wires as they were when you took them apart. Check very carefully other ends, other edges. Being very careful. I'm going to reattach my wires here to the side chamber. Again, checking for no pinches, no obstructions. Everything looks pretty good. I like the way it looks. All right, so let's go get the top cover. Okay guys, we're going to go ahead and put the top lid and the back piece back on. When you took this thing apart, you probably noticed that there was a connector that attaches to the back rear switches. Go ahead and reattach that connector. You can only go one way, and make sure it pops into place thoroughly. And you also notice when you took this back piece off that it made a little bit of a popping noise when you took it off. Didn't really hurt anything, but because there's a little lip here on the back of the plastic, when you put it back in, it has a propensity to make a slight clicking or popping sound. So if you notice, we put it, curl it down, curl it under the lip, push down, take your hands, see, pops back into place. When you took it apart, to begin with, it did kind of the exact opposite. Next, this back piece has some lips on it, here and here, that slide into these catches. What you want to do is kind of lift up on the back piece a little bit. Make sure you put this back piece to the inside of the condenser coils. Mount it till it slides on, and then your back piece will pop down over it. Then you have two remaining screws to put in. Is to go ahead and insert these screws. Again, it's a good idea. Don't force them in. Kind of back it up a little bit till you feel the threads catch. Snug it down. Don't over tighten. Until it catches. Snug it down. Don't over tighten. And I think we got it. Let's hope we got her. This video will be for nothing. So we're going to go ahead and move it back into our kitchen. We're going to put a bottle on it, plug it in, and let's see what happens. All right, guys, we got the cooler back into our kitchen. We've inserted our 5-gallon water bottle, put the fill tube back inside, make sure it's seated nice and tightly. We're going to go ahead and close the door, and we're going to begin the fill process. Okay, our unit is filled up, and as you can see, the cooler light has come on. We're going to need to wait about an hour or so. Okay, so it's been about 45 minutes and the cooling light has gone off. That is fantastic news. Looks like the unit is properly cycling again. I think we have it fixed. So I appreciate you guys watching this video. If you have any questions or comments, please visit my group page, save it, fix it, make it, and I hope to do some more of these videos down the road. Take it easy, everyone.